I was on a podcast a couple of weeks ago, probably called a month ago. Timing's not important. The question they asked is important. The question they asked me was, is Ohio State capable, or is Ohio State currently doing to the Big-10 what Clemson has done to the ACC? In some ways, what Oklahoma has done to the Big-12? I answered yes. I kind of gave both answers. It's my belief that there is too much invested in places like Michigan, like Wisconsin, like Penn State, for any team to ever just totally detach themselves from the rest of the field in the Big-10. Having said that, there is a clear and sizable gap between the Ohio State Buckeyes right now and whoever you want to call second best up there. Now, I don't think anyone, including our folks at Michigan or Penn State, are arguing that. They're certainly not arguing it in Columbus. They are waving their fist in agreement. So do I think it's possible that they ever turn the Big-10 into what Clemson has turned the ACC into? No. But I do think there's a very big gap here. They're on a totally different level. The why, to me, is pretty easy. I'm going to give you the when it happened in a second, because I had a very interesting conversation with a couple of my Michigan guys, one of whom works for this network, the other, just a dude I know from around the block. I think that right now, every category, it's like a video game when you get to design a player and you have so many points. Well, at Ohio State, they have like unlimited points to design a program, and everything's a 10. Fundraising is a 10. Infrastructure and resources, they're all 10s. Strength and conditioning is an 11, if that's possible. Sports medicine is a 10. Their coaching staff is a 10. Their recruiting is a 10. And their commitment level is a 10. Don't mistake this. There's a big difference in places that are fully committed and places that think they're fully committed. Ohio State, Alabama, Clemson, these places will show you what it looks like to truly be a freight train where every car is just moving in the same direction. And a lot of places think they're like that. Most places aren't. Even the places that have those big brand name helmets and they got those trophy cases with a lot of those trophies collecting dust, and they think they're serious, but they're not quite as serious. They're like a 7 in this category, maybe an 8.5 here, but a 6.5 here. And when you're trying to compete with 10, 10, 10, 10, 10 across the board, makes it really hard. And that's how a gap forms. They care more. That's the short answer. At Ohio State, they just care more than everyone else. The reason I know it is because they prove it. They prove it in every facet of their program. There's nothing left to chance. There's no corner cut. When did it happen? This is where I'm talking to one of my Michigan buddies about a month ago. And I just kind of listened to him. See, when Jim Harbaugh got to Michigan, I was of the opinion that it was a dawning of a new era at the University of Michigan. And I thought, ultimately, that he could do, in short time at Michigan, to Urban Meyer, who was then at Ohio State, what Nick Saban did. Nick Saban came into the SEC at Alabama. 2007 was a throwaway year. 2008, he got Bama to Atlanta. They faced Florida. It was a 4-quarter classic back and forth. Tebow and Florida end up winning. But the next year, they dethroned Florida. Florida as a program is never the same. Meyer ends up leaving a short time thereafter. And I thought that Jim Harbaugh could end up doing that at Michigan. Revisionist history says, he was never even close. Now, you and I both know that's not true. Here's when it happened. It's very rare that you could just point your finger to a football game as being a turning point. A lot of times in literature, they pretend it happens like this. Most of the time, it's a gradual build or a gradual decline. But if we go back to that 2016 Ohio State-Michigan game, 30-27 in overtime, very controversial ending. I certainly don't have to remind Michigan folks how it happened. I don't think I need to remind Buckeye fans either how it happened. Ohio State essentially as a program, not that they were cruising at low altitude to begin with, but it's like they hit a springboard that day. And their trajectory has been unmistakable. Do you remember what Jim Harbaugh and Michigan were like before that day? Before that day, I lived in Columbus, Georgia at the time, not Columbus, Ohio. And Jim Harbaugh had come down to Prattville, Alabama. This was when the satellite camp thing was all the rage, and it was going to, erode away the integrity of the sport. I just yawned. When's the last time we talked about satellite camps? I digress. He came down there, and he stirred everyone up down there, and he ruffled a lot of feathers, and he was really active on Twitter, and he was running his mouth a lot. I didn't have a problem with it because I knew he was marketing his program, and ultimately I thought he was going to be able to back it up. So for 2 years, he did that. And they go into Columbus, and they play toe-to-toe with Ohio State, and I will never forget this. I picked Michigan to win the game, And I was doing a show in Columbus, Georgia at the time, a TV show with a buddy of mine, and he was steadfast. Ohio State has got this, and Harbaugh, he's going to let you down. Michigan's going to let you down. And I was steadfast in the other direction. And so I was at the Iron Bowl, but yet I was not down on the field. I was up in the press box because the games overlapped. And so as the Iron Bowl's going on in front of me, I'm locked on a computer screen here watching the ending of Ohio State, Michigan. And I'll never forget watching that ending, the way it happened. Is he short? Did he convert? Yes, he did. Touchdown, Ohio State. They win the game. You can never know at the time the most seminal moments. You know that was a big outcome. You know you're going to be talking about that game for 50 years, but we never could know at the time. In retrospect, that's as close as Jim Harbaugh and Michigan are going to get, not just to beating Ohio State since then, but also possibly being relevant as a national power. Now, I want you to play a game with me. We're not going to do it long, just 30 seconds. What in the world is different about the state of that rivalry, the state of the Big-10, and thus the state of college football, if Michigan wins that game? To me, and this goes back to what my Michigan buddy and I were talking about, it's almost like a breaking down of a Berlin Wall. Not only do you end a streak in a rivalry, but also everything that you have taught, if you're Jim Harbaugh in Michigan, it's validated on that day. Instead, Ohio State wins another one. Curse continues, whatever you want to call it. And it's almost like as Ohio State hit that springboard, Michigan was neutered as a program. I had Sam Webb on the other day, not on this show, on another series of actual hits that we do here at 24/7 Sports. Sam Webb works for the MichiganInsider.com. It's our Michigan 24/7 site. And I was talking to him about spring football at Michigan. And yeah, we delved into this position and that position and what's the overall mood, but really what it comes down to, and he was brutally honest about it and he's dead on the money, is nothing aside from Ohio State matters right now. Which brings me to this point. It's not that everyone's not focused on Ohio State in the Big-10. Commitment level is what it takes. Commitment, talent is what it takes. You got to have a top-notch coaching staff, but commitment level is what it's got to take. I no longer think they have the right guy at Michigan. I no longer think they have the right formula at Michigan. So I was wrong about that because I thought they did have it. But what Sam Webb told me and what I've observed to be true as well is it doesn't matter if the offensive line looks like it's coming together. It doesn't really matter if they got a couple of hot new wide receiver prospects as true freshmen that look to contribute. It doesn't matter if they start 8-0. None of this stuff matters. All Michigan folks care about, all Penn State folks care about, all anyone cares about in the Big-10 is that circle date with that team from Columbus. And if you beat them, then we can talk. And if you don't, what in the world does it matter? So in that sense, yes, the Big-10 has become what the ACC is to Clemson. I just happen to think there may be a few more qualified players in the Big-10, players in terms of programs, that are capable of making a push. But here's the final point that makes Ohio State not only a superpower right now in college football and in the Big-10, but here to stay. You see the picture we have there on the lower third at the bottom of the screen? That's Ryan Day. The day that Urban Meyer announced his retirement, I remember about a 48-hour period where a lot of you thought it was going to be open season. You were probably going to raid their roster or their recruiting class, and certainly the dynasty there was over. And yet, I remember I didn't even have to talk to anyone. I remember observing the process in which he ended up being the head coach there. And there wasn't this huge national coaching search. They didn't take 3 or 4 weeks and go to this end of the world and that end of the world. They, at least as far as I could tell, hired the guy they wanted to hire. Anytime that a program the magnitude of Ohio State hires the guy they want to hire and they don't get turned down 5 times before they hire someone, I'd be very hesitant thinking it's going to be open season on anything. Ryan Day's a superstar. I don't care if he's been here 15 minutes. He's a superstar. And that is the most important aspect to why they're not going anywhere. You may catch them. It's going to take a heck of an effort. You may catch them, but they're not going anywhere. I don't hate on this because I enjoy the commitment level. And the thing about it is a lot of other programs out there are technically capable of what Ohio State's done, what Bama's done, what LSU's done, what Clemson's done. A lot of programs out there are capable of it. They don't want it bad enough. Why in the world would I get mad at Ohio State because they are pinging 10s in all aspects of their program? How about I get mad at the underachievers for not matching them? That's what I'm more likely to get mad at.